Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Today, the government of Manitoba announced the opening of a supervised drug consumption site in Winnipeg next year. It will be the first official site in the province and will be led and guided by Indigenous peoples with lived experience using drugs. Here's Sav Jonesa with the details.
Harm reductionists in Winnipeg got some news they've been waiting for on Friday. Years of lobbying the provincial government for safer places to use drugs finally paid off.
We will have a supervised consumption site up and running in the new year.
The Manitoba government will provide more than $700,000 to create the site. Their partner, the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre, will lead the service, making it also the first Indigenous-led supervised consumption site in Canada. Its goal? To prevent overdose deaths and connect people to resources and support.
In Canada, we lose 22 people a day to opioid toxicity. A parent, a child, a grandparent, might be an uncle, an aunt, a friend. Consumption sites provide a supervised environment where individuals can use drugs under the watchful eye of a trained staff who can intervene in the event of an overdose.
While a location hasn't been secured yet, Addictions Minister Bernadette Smith says it will be in Winnipeg's downtown and open in 2025.
This is about, accessing primary health care, getting folks connected with services such as housing, such as EIA, counseling supports, into whether they want to get into treatment. It's not just about consumption.
Cody Guimond is a peer advisor with lived experience using drugs. She hopes the site will save lives.
It's happening way too much. I'm losing friends every single day to it. I just lost a handful within the past couple days. So I think the safe consumption site is needed right now.
Earlier in the day, Pierre Poilievre was in Montreal, where he said he would close some supervised consumption sites in Canada and not fund new ones if elected as Prime Minister. Sites he calls drug dens.
Justin Trudeau must immediately shut down this hard drug injection site, this drug den, to protect our children, reassure families, and ensure the safety of all Quebecers and Canadians.
Smith begs to differ.
We've heard strongly from the community here in Manitoba that it's something that needs to happen. We've had over 400 deaths here in our province. We have no supervised consumption site. We're coming from a conservative government for the last seven and a half years that didn't take a harm reduction approach, and we're listening to community, and this is what community has asked for.
Smith says that even if the Conservatives win the upcoming federal election, Manitoba will move forward with the site because that is what community is asking for. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Grassy Narrows First Nation has launched a legal battle over Ontario over the province's Mining Act, an act they are claiming is unconstitutional. The First Nation, located 80 kilometers north of Kenora, Ontario, presented its legal application in Toronto today. They say the Mining Act violates Section 35 of the Constitution, arguing it infringes on treaty rights and does not require proper consultation with First Nations before staking claims. The application obtained by APTN states there are around 10,000 mining claims in the Grassy Narrows area. In an interview with APTN, Grassy Narrows lawyer Jackie Esmond explained how Ontario's free entry mining system infringes on the rights of First Nations.
What that means is that basically anyone in their pajamas on their couch can get on their laptop and they can stake a claim anywhere that's open for mining in the province without notifying, consulting, getting consent from Indigenous nations who have an interest and rights over that land. So what Grassy Narrows is planning to do is to start a court application that is challenging the constitutionality of the Mining Act.
The company at the center of a recent cyanide spill at a Yukon mine says it might not be able to reopen. Late last month, Victoria Gold's Eagle Gold mine experienced an equipment failure which caused a landslide and allowed small amounts of cyanide into a nearby creek. Operations have since been halted. Victoria Gold said in a statement Friday it doesn't know if it will receive the authorizations necessary to restart production. It also doesn't know if it will have the money needed to repair the site. Meanwhile, Yukon government has ordered the company to submit various plans to help protect the site from further contamination. John Stryker is Yukon's Minister of Energy and Mines.
We never want a mine that fails like this. This should not be. This type of situation is if we're not relaying how serious we think this situation is, let me just emphasize the point. It is completely serious.
The Assembly of First Nations and First Nations organizations are hailing a commitment from the federal government on child welfare reform. The original dollar figure was just below $20 billion. This week, during the Assembly of First Nations Annual General Assembly, it was announced the new agreement would be $47.8 billion over 10 years. This deal is on top of the $23 billion that has been signed off on as compensation for 300,000 families who were discriminated against in the child welfare system. The reform would focus on prevention rather than apprehension. The more than doubling of the previous dollar figure will be discussed by chiefs over the summer, including a special chiefs assembly in September that will be held in Winnipeg. But not everyone is so sure about the $47.8 billion child welfare reform package. Child advocate Cindy Blackstock, who has been fighting the Government of Canada over discrimination in the system for over a decade, was only given a copy of the agreement last night. Blackstock feels things are also being rushed. She joined us from Vancouver. Cindy, thanks for being with us. This week started out with this deal being a secret, and then there was a press conference on Thursday announcing it was worth the $47 billion, more than twice as much as initially announced. Sounds pretty good, no?
Well, we have to wait and look at the details. I mean, we already have, thanks to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, about $22.5 billion over 5 years, plus things like capital and other expenditures are on top of that. So we have to do our due diligence and look at what's in there. And one of the things that strikes me very early is that there are a lot of different hands in this cookie jar of money, and one of them is the Government of Canada's. So the Canadian government's in there, the provinces are in there, the parties have some additional funding. So we have to see out of all of this, how much is left for kids and how is it going to be structured and who is it going to go to, and then who makes the decisions about the implementation of this agreement in a way that hopefully will ensure free, prior, and informed consent. And I need to go through that in more detail to take a look at those paragraphs.
Yeah, this deal was already going to be the largest settlement in Canadian history, or believed to be, and now we've doubled one part of it. You talk about hands in the cookie jar. Can you explain what you're talking about there?
Right. So, when I talked about the $22.5 billion that's already on the books, plus, additional expenditures on top of that, the Canadian government wasn't one of the groups that was getting funds. But in the agreement in the early pages, it makes clear that the Canadian government is going to get some of this money. It's unclear how much they will get, but they're clearly in there. And one of the other groups that's going to be receiving funds are the provinces and territories, where they provide services to First Nations. That absolutely should happen, but I'm concerned when they're included in this bucket of money that should be going to First Nations and is not on top of it.
Cindy, you initially didn't see this agreement, didn't get a copy, right?
No.
And it sounds like many other leaders may not have either. Has this already been a pretty bad rollout of a massive deal here?
Well, for me, I absolutely believe that transparency matters when it comes to making the best decisions for children and families, because this particular agreement is going to affect First Nations children all over this country for generations to come. If there was ever an agreement that deserved the best of everyone's contributions, this is it. And when there's such secrecy around it, it really cuts off all of those good ideas and questions from coming in to be able to inform the agreement. So I'm hoping now that it's out, that this won't be just a rush to rubber stamp this, that there will be opportunity for the experts in the regions and most importantly First Nations leadership to really exercise free, prior and informed consent. The time feels pretty rushed to me, especially over the summer when a lot of people are in ceremony or they have family obligations. You know, and we heard that from the chiefs at the assembly as well, is that that date in September feels pretty crunched. But thankfully, the national chief has said publicly that she'd be willing to give 120 days. So hopefully they'll reset that 120 days according to her commitment, and that would push it sometime into November, giving people more time.
Cindy, we'll have to leave it there. No doubt be talking to you about this in the coming months. Thanks for taking some time today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dennis. Bye-bye.
The federal government provided an update on the wildfire situation today. Details on that and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. So far, so good when it comes to the news about this year's wildfire season. Fire activity is running far behind the pace and scale of last year, according to the federal government. Although predicted hotter weather in Western and Northern Canada will make an increase in fire activity very likely. Last year's wildfire season was the most destructive on record. According to a federal government technical briefing, there are 284 active wildfires, with 80 of them currently out of control. According to Indigenous Services Canada, few First Nations are under threat, although the Little Red River Cree Nation in Alberta evacuated nearly 1,000 residents from its Garden River community on Thursday.
ISC is monitoring 5 wildfires which are impacting or have the potential to impact First Nations communities in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. As of July 10th, one First Nation in Alberta has issued an evacuation order for one of their 3 communities as a wildfire is in proximity to the road leading to the community. ISC is on standby along with other partners to support all impacted communities if needed.
As mentioned, Garden River, a part of the Little Red River Cree Nation in northern Alberta, has evacuated roughly 1,000 people. A state of emergency has been called due to a wildfire 46,000 hectares in size that is 8 kilometers from the only road into Garden River. The fire is not currently threatening the community and is about 30 kilometers northwest, but high temperatures are hindering firefighting efforts. In May of 2023, fires destroyed about 200 homes and 100 other structures in the community. Saskatchewan RCMP are on the lookout for fake officers. Earlier this week, Onion Lake RCMP received reports of phony traffic stop. 3 suspects in a black SUV were equipped with red and blue emergency lights. They stopped vehicles and demanded identification. None of the suspects wore RCMP uniforms. Instead, they wore balaclavas and tactical gear. When the suspects failed to provide clear answers to motorists as to who they were, cars were allowed to drive away. Saskatchewan RCMP remind the public that impersonating an officer is a serious crime. If you suspect a fake officer, you can ask for their identification and badge to verify their RCMP status. The Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations will be in Saskatchewan to offer a formal apology next week. On Monday, Gary Anandasangari will be in Saskatchewan to deliver an apology to 9 Dakota and Lakota First Nations. The historic ceremony will be held in the Whitecap Dakota First Nation, with representatives from other 8 First Nations in attendance. APTN will be on site at the ceremony on Monday. Time for one last break. Coming up, we'll put a wrap on our stories from the 42nd annual Bannock Festival. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Today's picture comes from regular contributor Clarence Jones. While out for a walk along the Skeena River in the Gitxsan Nation, Clarence captured what he says is a young eagle praying. Thanks as always for sharing, Clarence. How are you spending your summer weekend? You can send your pictures to share at aptn.ca to be featured as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, showers and 27 in Halifax, rain and 28 for Fredericton. 19 in Kuujjuaq, 17 in Nain. 29 with showers in Montreal and Val-d'Or. 29 in rain in Sault Ste. Marie, sunny and 29 in North Bay. 28 with showers in Thunder Bay, rain and 29 in Sioux Lookout. Rain and 26 for God's Lake, smoky and 24 for the Paw. 26 with showers in Winnipeg, 27 in Dauphin. 27 in Regina, rain and 24 in Saskatoon. Smoky and 23 for Buffalo Narrows, 24 in La Ronge. Showers and 22 in High Level, 24 and smoky for Fort McMurray. Showers and 24 in Edmonton, 30 in Lethbridge. Sun's out and 23 in Vancouver, 35 in Penticton. 26 for Prince George and Smithers. 25 in Old Crow, 18 with showers in Whitehorse. Sun's out and 21 in Yellowknife, 28 with rain in Norman Wells. 14 and sunny in Sax Harbor, 26 in Paulatuck. 15 for Chesterfield, 8 with rain in Arviette. 5 in Resolute, 18 in Joe Haven. Well, after sweltering temperatures hit the west, the heat has officially arrived in central Canada. Environment and Climate Change Canada has issued a heat warning in Winnipeg, with humidex values hitting 40 on Thursday and Friday. Reporter Sierra Bettens tells us how community organizations banded together to help locals keep cool.
When things start heating up here in Winnipeg, our community organizations, libraries, and splash pads become safe havens for people trying to stay cool. And this year, the City of Winnipeg and community organizations did their homework. In late June, End Homelessness Winnipeg published their 2024 Extreme Weather Response Plan, which brings together over 40 different community organizations to help people stay cool in this heat. And today, we're seeing it in action.
Here at the Main Street Project, donations of water are piling up.
We put a call out for donated bottled water on our social media, and we've had a really good response to that so far. We went to Costco in St. James today to pick up a very large donation of bottled water.
For people experiencing homelessness, extreme temperatures can be dangerous and even fatal. Cindy Titus, who manages communications at Main Street Project, says their facilities are bustling in the heat, with more seeking shelter.
People experiencing homelessness are at great risk of heat-related illness, and so that would look like sunburn, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and dehydration, and we want to do our best to prevent that kind of illness as soon as possible.
Over the past few years, Titus says the organization had to adapt the services to accommodate more extreme heat events. Marianne Opria, an emergency management officer with the City of Winnipeg, says this comes with a price tag.
During times of extreme heat, it can be pretty expensive, especially trying to get water out to the communities. So we have done our own outreach to the community centers, again, just to see who is available, and that we do provide cases of water for them during the summer season.
Titus says the Main Street Project is always looking for donations of water, fruit, popsicles, and summer clothing for community members, as well as funds to purchase essentials. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Sierra. And if you're in Winnipeg, Wabung Abanijig is desperately seeking donations of bottled water for community during the heat wave. Donations can be dropped off at 225 Dufferin Avenue. Made for the big leagues, only its location is deep in the middle of the northern woods. In this final story about the Bannock Festival in St. Teresa Anishinaabe Nation, T.R. Wheatley speaks with organizers and a newly graduated carpenter. About that stage we've been seeing all week.
These youth are doing the final touches to the stage they spent months preparing for. This big moment.
Thank you for having us. We've been Mariana's Trench.
2 nights of concerts with mainstream artists right here on this main stage.
So the stage behind me right now has been built by recent graduates of the Youth Build program. And this program was a program that trained our youth to become certified carpenters. And they had the golden opportunity to build the stage that these artists are playing on today, and that will be used for many years to come with other future activities.
Ivan Flett organized these concerts. He says normally big-name artists have their own stages that are assembled, taken down, and loaded into trucks by roadies, following the artists to their locations. Only St. Teresa Point Anishinaabe Nation is a fly-in community, so they had to get creative here, making use of the carpentry program for this community celebration. Gilbert Knott is one of the recently graduated carpenters.
It was my sister that just got me into it, to get into a youth build. It was just mostly us and students being hot in the hot weather, trying to figure out what to do for ourselves.
Flett says learning as you go is often how it happens here.
And what we strive here in St. Teresa Point is youth is the future, so we will continue using youth and promoting youth.
Thrill Star Entertainment out of Winnipeg helped coordinate this event.
I haven't seen anything better. I don't think you could pay anyone a professional company any amount of money to build such a fantastic stage. So I compliment the students for building it, and I welcome them to join us in any future productions as well.
While visitors are taking notice, leadership here take every opportunity to hype up the stage built one nail at a time, deep in the middle of the woods.
Getting this done all year, and they graduated last month. Thank you so much.
What can I do next year? What can I do for my community next year?
While Flett isn't ready to say just yet, he's giving us a hint. The artist's initials are BA and may currently be on tour. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, St. Teresa Point.
Great job again on the work up north from TR and Zach. A great series of stories. Maybe we can take the newscast up there for the 43rd Bannock Festival and we can finally get some of that Bannock. That's all the time we have for your news for this Friday. For news anytime, you can of course visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.